Hello, what's going on, everyone? That lower third looking good.
New phase of the season.
Let's go, baby. We lost that 2-0 against Colorado Springs. Couldn't be us. I totally forgot that happened. No. It's a new season.
Why did you bring it up then, Max? Why did you make us remember this, okay? I thought we were building towards the playoffs. Positive, Max.
You can only move forward by remembering your past. I think some philosopher said that. Might have been me. Anyway, welcome into the PHNX Rising Podcast.
Max, I would not ascribe to any Max Simpson philosophy.
I'm no philosopher.
You are not, no.
No, I'm not. No, appreciate everyone joining us. Listen, we talked about it a bit. We got some, everyone in the chat during Saturday's post-game show. And it's true. This is a new season. This is something where, hey, doesn't matter how the team's been doing form-wise. Again, we were kind of saying it before we started. It's kind of wild that this team really in the span of the last month was one of the hottest teams in the league and then turned into one of the coldest. But none of that matters. Doesn't matter. We've seen Rising enter the postseason in good times and in bad. And that's the beauty about this is all it takes is just a chance to go your way, catch a team at the right time or the wrong time. And listen, man, we kind of said it leading up to this, but I'm very excited that we're playing San Diego Loyal, and we go from there. We move.
Yeah, I mean, I know you were excited for this.
I was excited.
You wanted this matchup, right? And obviously, there are some people who would prefer it, like the edge that this kind of a game will give it. I don't know. We'll see. With that team, Rising did not beat San Diego in either of their two meetings earlier this season. They drew at home. They lost away. Mm-hmm. But that home game they drew, they threw that one away, really. I think Rising should have come away with a better result in that one. But I don't know. Hey, there's a lot, and we will obviously preview that on Thursday.
We will.
In great detail.
We absolutely will. But I know we wanted to get into a bit further about really the playoffs as a whole.
Should we look at the playoffs as a whole? Should we have a look at the bracket and how it has worked out? So we get a better idea here. Obviously, you look over.
It's beautiful.
Why is it beautiful, Max?
It's because Rising's in it.
Because Rising's in it, right? There we go. So let's have a look at what's happening over on the left-hand side, which matches up, of course, very nicely with the map. Mm-hmm. The West Coast, the West Conference, of course.
Oh, wow.
Western Conference. First seed there, Sacramento Republic. They'll be hosting New Mexico United, who snuck in as the 8th seed. And the 4th seed there, San Antonio, the defending champions. They'll be playing Colorado Springs Switchbacks, the 5th seed. Then you get to the bottom half of the bracket. You got Loyal, the 3rd seed, of course, playing, who could that be? Oh, it's number 6, Phoenix Rising.
Yeah.
And then you have number 2, Orange County, coming up against the 7th seed, El Paso Locomotive.
True.
Interesting. Out on the East, Pittsburgh Riverhounds. They secured the Players' Shield. They have the number 1 seed in the East and indeed across the entire league. So they have hosting privileges as far as they happen to go. They'll be playing number 8, Detroit City. Memphis 901. Despite all those numbers they've got in their name, they're actually number 4. And Lou City at number 5. So those two will be facing each other just off of Beale Street. You got Charleston at number 3, taking on Indy 11, number 6. And you got those Tampa Bay Rowdies, constantly one of those teams that seems to get to the Eastern Conference Final. They're in at 2, playing Birmingham Legion at 7.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's the beautiful thing about this bracket, right? I mean, you take one game at a time, and you don't want to look too far ahead, but you can kind of see based off that bracket, there could be some really juicy matchups if things go the right way. Of course, in USL, that hardly happens. It don't matter if this season is any indication. You can't take anything for granted. You never know how what's going to look ahead. But hey, there's some good matchups there in the first round across both conferences.
There are. It'll be interesting to see how that one turns out. I think that again, right? It's you look at some of the matchups that are there down the line, and I know we've said, right, okay, Phoenix Rising are a team that realistically we're not expecting necessarily to see a home game. We could well have seen our last game at 38th and Washington featuring Phoenix Rising of the season. However, Orange County, do you necessarily rule out the fact that they could lose that game?
No, not at all.
Okay, so if Phoenix Rising can win on the road in San Diego and El Paso Locomotive knock off Orange County, you'll be seeing a home game at 38th and Washington the following weekend. So, hey, that path is still there. It's still open. It's the only way that Rising can host the game unless New Mexico get through or unless one of the really low down East teams gets through to the final, which I don't see happening. I don't see either of those happening. So I think Rising's only hope of hosting a game is realistically going to be beating Loyal and hoping that El Paso can get the job done against Orange County. If not, it's going to be a long, long trip on the road.
It sure will be. No, it's just an interesting one, right? I mean, again, it's kind of the balance you got to do of like you take this one match at a time. This could be an absolutely pointless conversation if they lose Sunday evening. And then, that's kind of all we're talking about. But it is realistic to think that like Rising might be able to host even a playoff match. It's really not without the realm of possibility.
No, it's entirely possible. I think they can do it.
They can.
I don't know. We'll see.
They can. Okay. Anyone other than in the West, right? I mean, we're kind of, and again, I know we're going to be talking about this throughout the playoffs, regardless of Rising standing of just what this playoffs is shaping up to. But you're kind of looking at the path on the West. Who do you like, let's say, outside of Rising?
Well, Sacramento obviously finished well ahead of everyone else. They'd locked up the top seed before the final day. But I think they're beatable.
They are.
It's hard to predict because the thing about USL, right, this league has so much in terms of just anyone can beat anyone in this league, right? And the way the playoff system works, of course, with just one-off games, is really just... It pretty much just puts you in a spot whereby a really bad team can beat a really good team because it's just a one-off game, right? And we've seen it happen how many times in the past? We saw Phoenix Rising ultimately fall back the last time they were in the playoffs on penalties against an RGV team that just about snuck in there, right? They weren't very good, but they hung about in that game and managed to get there. It's hard to predict. I will say this. As you look at some of the teams, I think Orange County is still getting hot at about the right time. Much as it pains me to say it, I think that San Diego are a team that have gotten hot at the right time. Some of the other teams, San Antonio, I think, could be one and done. They are struggling right now.
That's the thing.
And Colorado are hot at the moment. I think if you had to pick the real dark horse being a team that's not in the top four that was going to go deep, other than Rising, it's Springs. It's Switchbacks. They're on form right now, right? They are winning games in this league. And when you get into the playoffs aren't necessarily a test of who's the best team. Sure. They're a test of who is hot at the right time. And for Colorado Springs, that time is right now.
Yeah. Time is up. My time is now, to quote John Cena. No.
Not to mention, if they happen to get the opportunity to host at any stage, which is possible.
Sure.
It's going to be...
Yeah, good luck.
It's going to be cold.
Good luck.
It's high altitude. Yep. It's not a fun place to go in that sense.
Yep.
Okay, Max might have been the one all, freezing himself in the whatever basement he found himself in on Saturday, having to wear a beanie of questionable affiliations. But it was cold in Colorado Springs, right? It was not fun. When I got back to my hotel room that night, it was 40 degrees Fahrenheit.
I want to point out multiple times that was based on aesthetic and not based on temperature. It was not out of a need. It was
so the aesthetic was...
Flagstaff. I told you.
So the Flagstaff aesthetic is, dare we say what team it was on that beanie of yours?
Anyway, if you're looking at the top half of the West, right, it kind of cannibalizes itself just a little bit, right? I mean, outside of New Mexico, which, again, anyone can win on any given day, but you have Sacramento, which has been a bit of a buzzsaw all season. San Antonio, which even if they are out of form, they are the defending champs for a reason. And then Switchbacks, which I completely agree, that is the dark horse. And that might even be on either side. I mean, we'll get into the East in just a second, but you really look at the top half of that. If, it is a big if, but if Rising is even able to get through and make it to the Western Conference Finals, whoever they're facing, again, this is assuming New Mexico will not go on, okay? It's going to be a buzzsaw because those teams are going to be just fighting it out. Whereas you look at the bottom half, again, Loyal, sure, they're at the right time. El Paso, OC, in some ways right time, but it doesn't scare me as much. That top half is very, very formidable.
Yeah, it is. But then at the same time, look at, I mean, If you were to pick another team in there, right, and we look over on the East now, and they're not a dark horse, right? They can't be. And you know why they can't be? Because they won the Players' Shield. They're the best regular season record in the entire league.
Who'd have thunk
But this is a team that hasn't lost since mid-August, right?
Yeah.
So as I'm looking at that, we know what quality they've got.
Yeah.
And they're still hot at the right time, right? When we've seen Phoenix Rising run away at times with the league, you look at it and think, okay, they get to the last month or so, and they just calm down, right? They're not looking great. They're not getting a lot done. They almost, I mean, again, dare I repeat the infamous words of 21 about them being on vacation for 6 weeks, right? But as you get into that's not what we've seen from Pittsburgh, right? They've not rested on their laurels. They've not...
No.
Given up on what's made them a successful team all year. They've had a good amount of success, right? And so, I don't know. I feel as though what I'm looking at there is a team that is definitely capable of going deep and plausibly, to be honest, matching what we saw last year, which is a team that won the regular season title, repeating that with a win in the playoffs.
Yeah, no, very much so. I mean, right, you look at the rest of the East, kind of like what we're talking about. I mean, Detroit, I don't know if that's going to put up too much of a fight against Pittsburgh. I know Louisville City is the perennial contenders on that side, but again, it's a bit of a weakened team. Even at the bottom half, where you have a lot of kind of really interesting matchups, right? Charleston Battery, no Phoenix Rising played them in their opener. They've been hitting on a run. Indy 11 finished strong, and they knocked off they drew San Antonio in the final match. Birmingham Legion, they were at one time top of the league for a decent stretch early on, and then they kind of plummeted. Then they kind of middled into that 7th spot. Then you got Tampa Bay, who, again, is always sniffing around it. I think if you're looking at this, and again, anyone can beat anyone, and I can't stress that enough, but if you're looking at the paths for any of these teams, to me, outside of Pittsburgh, who I think is the clear contender in the East, I think the rest is incredibly chaotic, and it's really kind of hard to determine that the rest of the teams there versus in the West. Yes, there's a bit up at play, but I think those are a bit more settled based on form and just based on how those teams have been trending, even really all season when you look at it.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. We'll see. Gosh, I mean, I know we'll get into Thursday a bit more about just some of the matchups and anything like that, but outside of Rising versus Loyal, is there a matchup that you particularly like?
I've got to be honest and say, as much as it kind of plays into the obvious of, hey, the most competitive game, what's it going to be? The 4s versus 5s. I'm intrigued by those on both sides. On the West, you've got San Antonio FC, again, defending champions, but they have limped into these playoffs. Do you know how many wins they've got in their last 5, Max?
I'm going to go with none.
One, actually. They've won one of their games in the last 5. I don't think that they're very good at the moment. I think they're struggling to find themselves. We'll have to see what they manage to do. But Colorado Springs, of course, are the opposite of that and have won 4 of their last 5. Okay? Then you look on the other side of the bracket, and of course, again, you've got Memphis, a Memphis side that... Memphis have been okay these last couple of years, right? Sure. They suddenly turned a bit of a corner last year, okay, for a team that have often been a little bit of a struggle.
Oh, sure.
They're going to be hosting. It's going to be, as usual, probably pretty god-awful on that pitch, because if there's one thing we know about Memphis 901, they play on a really, 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 really bad playing surface.
Yeah, they do.
Because, if there's nothing I like more in my USL Championship football than to look out on the pitch and see, oh, is that the pitcher's mound still there?
Not that kind of
right
pitch.
On the edge of the penalty area. Well, no, it is. Yeah, they just put a bit of grass over top and thought, I'll do. But it doesn't really make for a great game. But these two sides, right, last year, honestly, every time Memphis and Louisville met last year was a classic.
Yeah, for real.
I haven't had the chance, unfortunately, to watch those two sides meet each other this year. I haven't been able to watch either of those games. But again, two really good teams. Memphis done great lately these last 2 years. Louisville, always a contender in the East, and they're on the road. It'll be interesting to see if they can pull off a result or if they suffer a shock result here and ultimately end.
Sure. We'll have to see. I mean, I do echo San Antonio, Switchbacks, big fan of just the matchup, right? For the entertainment value, I think like that, I could very, very much see Switchbacks knocking them off. And then for me on the East, I mean, 4 or 5 there with Memphis and Louisville is a good shout. I'm going to go Charleston, Indy 11. I think two teams who very much, if you were to tell me at the start of the season that they would not just make playoffs, but really be in that contention, especially riding in the hot form of it, I don't know if I would have believed you, but I think to me, just the way those two teams are playing and the style in which they play, that's a juicy matchup to me.
Yeah, no, I can see that. Look, Charleston have got some very good players. We saw them put up a fight, to be honest, earlier in the season, as though they were going to be contending for a bit higher up the table, even in the third place that they finished in. But at the same time, you look at the turnaround that Ben Pearman's had there.
Yeah.
I believe it's the biggest swing in terms of points from one season to the next that has ever happened in USL Championship. Okay? That's how good he has been there this season, completely reshaping that team. They went from a bottom feeder to now a team in the top 3 that, I mean, they can have title hopes. I'm not sure if they've got enough necessarily to go there and do it, especially knowing they're going to come up against some talented squads, probably in Tampa Bay Rowdies and Pittsburgh Riverhounds along the route. But they've got the talent there that if they get those couple of bounces go their way, maybe they can achieve it.
Yeah. We'll see. Hey,
you enjoying that polar pop, Max?
Yeah, you see what it says?
You're about to lean into
what does that say on the bottom right there?
I can't tell, Max. What does it say?
Oh, you
read
most
it
definitely
for me.
can. It says polar pop. Only at Circle K. You know, I was a nice guy. Oh, and I'm a nice guy. You know this. Very generous man. One who buys people
Humble
a lot
too.
of things.
He's really humble.
Very humble. I buy a lot of things from here around the office. And, you know, I was on my way back to studios from a meeting. And I said, hey.
This was while he was procrastinating, deciding if he wants to go to San Diego or
That's
not.
not true. That was.
Have you decided yet?
I was told in confidence. Anyway, I was a generous guy. And I'm like, hey, you know, anyone want anything from the office? And I got multiple orders submitted to me. Let's see. It was a Coca-Cola Polar Pop, a bottle of Diet Coke, a Snickers bar, and then I got myself a big bag of beef jerky, a Polar Pop, and some dark chocolate covered almonds.
Well, you know what
that.
I hear you can get as well? You can also get gas that would get you to San Diego.
That's very true.
Do you know what on gas at Circle K?
Do you know what all that cost me?
I'm imagining a very reasonable price.
It was, especially with a couple of free Polar Pops thanks to the Inner Circle program. It was like $12, man, for all that stuff. Absolutely beautiful. Love to see it. Yes, Chris, Humble Max, you know it. You freaking know it. Check out Circle K. Their Inner Circle program, super easy to download the Circle K app, opt into their Inner Circle program. All it takes is a phone number, and yeah, you get a bunch of free stuff. Shout out Circle K. Do you know what you cannot get at Circle K?
What?
No, you can get almost everything at Circle K, but you can't get OG's brands, and that's okay because Circle K pairs well with OG's brands. You know, it's a nice gummy for those days where you just need a little bit of lift. My goodness, check out OG's brands, right? The indicas, the sativas. You know, if for those of you who are going to San Diego, I wouldn't recommend it if you're driving because, I mean, that's certainly illegal. Don't do that. I'm not advocating for that. But if you're flying, I'm not going to tell you to do that. But if you did, it's not the worst time. It's a good time. So sources say. If you're 21 years older, enjoy responsibly. Am I right?
Max is not a TSA agent.
I am not saying. Whoa. Let's hold on, phone. I'm not saying to take any inside of it. This is going to get off the rail. I'm not saying in any way to take off in there. I'm saying if you were to enjoy before you get to take it in the comfort of your own home, and because it lasts a couple hours, you know, you can then time it out well. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, that's what you're going with.
I was never once implying that. How dare you? How dare you? But yes, check out OG's brands. Whether you're doing your thing. You know, not America's, they're Arizona's scratch-made THC gummies. We love our friends at OG's Brands. Check them out at ogsbrands.com or, you know, check them out on the socials at OG's Brands.
Okay, right.
Let's
get down to business, shall we?
Let's do it. I hear we're talking about fantasy.
We are. So for those of you who haven't seen on Twitter, we've just posted these on Twitter, by the way. You can join in too. Have some fun. We're doing a fantasy competition. It's based very loosely, or not, as the case may be, on the way that Fantasy Premier League works. So it's nice and simple and straightforward. Okay, you have a budget of 100. We're not going to call a million because this is USL. Let's say it's 1,000, right? 1,000. That sounds about right. You have a budget of 100,000. The players are all priced based on their talent and their achievements this season. But specifically their achievements this season, based off of our good friends at Opta and the statistics that they provided when I requested a mass dump of these. But that's how we price these players up. And so you got $100 grand to spend. You must obviously pick one goalkeeper between 3 and 5 defenders, 3 and 5 midfielders, 1 and 3 forwards, and it adds up to 11 players in the end. We're also spicing it up. You've got to pay attention to make sure that you've got a good balance.
Of course.
No more than 2 players per team in this first round.
Oh, yes.
And no more than 7 players per conference in this first round. So those are the rules. Nice and simple. Obviously, because of the nature of this playoffs and how it goes, right? We're going to have to repick teams every single week. So keep an eye out. If you do choose to join in, keep an eye out for when we update those. We will be releasing new player lists every week to make sure that you can repick your teams appropriately. But we're going to run through our teams here.
This man painstakingly went through Pythagorean theorems and formulas and everything like that.
Yeah, the Excel spreadsheet works, guys. It
does.
works.
It actually is very
You download it, you can't even break it if you do it right.
I've tried.
Okay?
I've tried multiple
He's
times.
tried. Max would break this sheet if he could.
I'm no hacker, but,
Yeah, he is no hacker because he hasn't worked out how to get in yet.
No.
If he did, it wouldn't be that hard for him, probably, to be fair.
That's fair.
We've got our own teams. We've made our own picks. We've worked out who we trust in these moments. And I'm intrigued to know how it's gone. But Max, you know what? Let's start it off. We'll start off easy. I'm not going to ask you to name a player. I want to know what formation you went with. Okay?
Ooh, that's a fair question. Well, I went with the classic. I mean, not classic. I guess it's more of the modern. I went with a nice 4-3-3. I did. I put a lot of. I'll get into it. I know we'll get into it a bit later, but put a lot of value on the forward players, and they're gonna make up a lot of the
budget.
There. Yeah,
a lot of the budget. That's, I'll be honest.
As a former Golden Boot winner myself, you understand where the priorities lie, and that scores make the money.
Very
true.
Know
what I mean?
Well, that also matches up as well with the fact that I've got a 3-4-3.
Well.
There we go.
Interesting.
The attacks have made up a good bit of my budget as well. By the way, for anyone who, before I start getting someone ranting at me that, why have you called this player a midfielder when he's a defender? We've gone with the official league roster pages for what position they are and made no edits to those because I'm not adjudicating that for 300 different players.
That's a nice word.
Okay?
Wow.
Okay?
That's a big word.
So we're going with what the league says, and you can take it or leave it. But let's get started, right? Because obviously each team has one goalkeeper. Max Simpson, who is your goalkeeper? Give me the explanation. Let's talk through your thinking.
So I got this man, in my eyes, honestly, a bit of a budget. I think this is a guy who you did say this was based on this year, which makes a big difference. Because if you based it off last year, not only in the regular season, but in the postseason, this man would be worth quite the ransom. I'm going with Jordan Farr.
It's an interesting one because he hasn't played
FC.
Lately.
I don't know.
He hasn't played in their last 5 games.
That's okay.
So you spent $9,000 on a guy who may not play.
Oh yeah.
You feeling him?
No, I do.
You feeling it? Okay.
The man will come around.
The man will come around. The man will come around. Right. I am going East with my pick. Okay. And again, I thought, right, I don't want to buy one of the expensive players, right? The top the highest costed goalkeepers in this game at the moment, Nate Steinwasser from Detroit and Danny Vitiello from Sacramento. 13,000 a piece. I went with a 9,500 player here, and I've gone with Pittsburgh Riverhounds Jamali Waite.
Okay.
Jamaican international, wasn't with them for this last game because he was off on national team duty. And that, I think, impacted him a bit, right? His price is a little bit lower to me than I think he's worth because he's missed a few games, so that impacts it. He's also not got the highest save percentage, which doesn't help him, right? You do score some points for saves. However, for me, the reason I'm picking him here, I think at 9.5 is a bargain because I think a clean sheet is possible for him. They're coming up against Detroit City. This is a team that are not very attack-minded. That I think that a Pittsburgh side led by Bob Lilly playing that bit classic Lilly ball, right? What they're going to do, they're going to go out there, they're going to get a goal, and they're going to be willing to let Detroit fail in front of goal like they usually do. They'll sit back, make it difficult for them, and Detroit don't have enough going for them that they'll find a goal. So I think that for me, in that case, 9.5, possibly the cheapest clean sheet available to you there.
This is fair. Okay.
Yeah?
I like that.
I like it. I like my pick. Right. So move on to the defenders, right? You picked 4 at the back, yeah?
It did.
All right, let's talk them through.
Okay, my highest price defender, we are going to the league, the Western leaders, going to Sacramento Republic. Jared Timmer.
Give me the pricing on Mr. Timmer.
9.5 for Mr. Jared Timmer.
9.5.
Okay.
What's the rationale there? What do you think?
Rationale behind, I mean, listen, if you are going to be, say in the defense on a team who is, high up there in the West, plus, I mean, you're kind of looking at who they're facing in New Mexico United. I know they have some former rising players up there as strikers. It's just not something that overly concerns me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If I'm now going to the other defenders, I'm actually using one of my Phoenix Rising selections. I am going with John Stenberg.
You're on John Stenberg.
Going with John Stenberg. I like his stock. He's a guy who's been rising. Pun actually now intended. Didn't even mean to. But I think it's something where if you said that he would be the highest Phoenix Rising defender on this list, the man joined mid-season. And yet, quite a good haul there. I like it. For 8 points, it's very good value.
Yeah, it's $8,000. That's a very affordable player. Again, it's partly because he hasn't played as much. But I'm intrigued though. Here's what I'll say. Right, I think you got to look for people who got goal contributions.
That's fair.
All right, let's keep on going.
That's fair. And then I will go actually as well. Former Rising player going to Joe Farrell. Pittsburgh Riverhounds 7.5. Okay, again, also like where the Riverhounds are trending again. I understand gold contributions, totally get that. I like going with the top seeds, especially with the defenders. I know Rising is the exception there. And there's another exception. Maybe it's a bit of recency bias. Maybe it's the Reno 1860 FC connection. I like Duke Lacroix, Colorado Springs switchback, 7.5. The man has speed to burn. You saw it in the assist that he led for Rising. And I will say I've seen that man in playoffs. Good.
I considered him. I did consider him. So I like it. Okay. Right. Well, I've got 3 at the back, right? Here's the thing. I've gone with now, I believe, the most expensive purchase either of us have said today.
Okay.
I spent $11,000 on Marcus Nakim from Orange County. The reason behind it, right? This is a guy, he's not the cheapest option out there. I know that. But I also believe that Orange County, they're coming up against El Paso. El Paso have been hit and miss. I think that Orange County can get their goal there, especially if El Paso aren't at their best. There's a good chance there you'll get a good defensive effort out of Orange County. I'm also going for him at this point because this is a guy who gets chances as well, right?
Oh, sure.
He's taken the joint 4th most shots on Orange County. Oh, no, he may not have the goals to show for it, but he takes the chances. And to me, if he's going to get chances, I like it. I'm going with that. I'm also going to go, here we go, $7,500. Shifting over to San Antonio here. You went with Mr. Farr and goal. I'm going with someone that Rising fans will recognize because he's a former trialist here in Phoenix. It is, of course, Mitchell Tainter. Mitchell Tainter, to me, is another guy, I'm looking for value, right? I'm not looking for flashy out of him, but he's got a couple of goals on his name on this season, It kind of makes up a little bit for that weaker clean sheet rating that he's got there. So I'm going down that route. Again, 7.5. You're not breaking the bank with 7.5. No. That's a good, nice value pick. And I'm picking one more at 7.5 as well. Aaron Guillen from Tampa Bay Rowdies. Look, again, I think he's a good value pick. He's a guy who can get an assist in there. He'll probably start. I'm not really sure what to expect out of Birmingham Legion. I think Tampa Bay can get the win in that one. But again, it's 7.5 for a likely starter. And sometimes that's the way you got to look at these, right? You get points if they put the minutes in. You get points if they're playing over 60 minutes. That's a key thing. I personally think looking at that again, it's another player in a team that could have some good success in this one. I don't think they're necessarily going to concede that many goals in this game. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So my back 3 there is Nakim, Tainter, and Guillen.
Okay,
we like it. Right, we're moving on. Moving on to the middle of the park. And this is a point where, you know what, I think we'll swap over, right? Because you've done your picks first.
I have.
I'm going to do my picks from here on out. Now, I went for a lot of value in my midfield. You'll see that my budget is quite forward heavy. I like those forwards, right? And there are some very well-priced forwards. But I'm going to go with midfielder, my top midfielder. I'm going $9,500 on Canado Forbes from Pittsburgh Riverhounds.
That is a good one.
10 assists on the season.
Fast.
And again, Pittsburgh taking on Detroit.
That's pretty good.
I think they've got a good shot in that game. I think they're going to get something out of it. Yeah. And I think that Canado Forbes could well be a part of it.
I like that.
Moving on, of course, I got 4 players in the midfield. Now, these next 2 players I'm going to go for, I found them to be value picks. 6.5 grand each. Both of these players value picks in my mind at 6.5 because they haven't had the best of seasons, but we know what they can do because we've seen them do it, either for or against Phoenix Rising. I'm going to go with one San Diego player in Alejandro Guido. 6.5 grand for Guido. Okay, again, I know he's had a slow season. He hasn't really scored this year. But this is a guy we know can turn it on, has the ability. And when you're getting down to these one-game sample sizes in the playoffs, that's all that matters, right? 6.5 for him, easy money. And I'm also going to take a former Rising player in Arturo Rodriguez. Charleston Battery, again. Look, he hasn't had his best season. But when he showed up, we've seen a couple where he's gotten a couple of assists. Or he found a few goals earlier in the year. At 6.5, I'm willing to take that gamble. I'm going to go with Arturo Rodriguez in there. And then my final pick, and I'm probably going to butcher this name, Carlos Miguel Jr. from Lou City at 5 grand. My cheapest pick I made in the entire selection process.
Pretty good.
Young guy, 20. He's gotten a few appearances lately. Started recently a couple of games.
Sure.
And just as I'm looking at people in that price range, right around where they are, he creates more chances than most of the people around him as midfielders. So I feel relatively comfortable with that pick. I think, again, right, he's my bargain pick. No one is going to get an 11-player team that is made up of superstars. You can't do it when you're working to this budget, right? It's a tough challenge. In fact, we'll kind of get into this once we're done, but it's a really tough challenge. But Max, so my 4 midfielders in there, as I said, Canado Forbes, Alejandro Guido, Arturo Rodriguez, and I'm going with Carlos Miguel Jr. Who are you going for?
First, the most expensive midfielder on my end, Luis Rodriguez, Sac Republic. He was $8K in my books. Again, guy who...
You're really saving that money up for the forwards, aren't you?
I really am. Oh, yeah.
My man is going out to kill some people.
I know. Listen, we're going to be a counter-attacking team. We bunker in, and then we go, and we got talent to burn, and you'll find out shortly. But yeah, I like Luis Rodriguez. He gets into attacking spaces. Guy who... bit of a facilitator, definitely can take on some shots on his own right, but just gets into good spaces. And especially when you're in playoff time, to me, you get in the right spaces, you get rewarded. I like him there. Second of my 3 midfielders. Going to former Reno 1868 FC player, my word, Seth Kasipli.
Seth Kasipli. That's a name we know.
Yeah, Seth Kasipli, right? I mean, I know we've seen him play against Orange County. He's not a flashy player by any means, and I totally get that I might be sacrificing some goal contributions, but I just like the steadiness. I think you know what you get out of him, and again, just kind of makes the whole thing humming. I think if anything, let's say we were doing one where this team could progress into later rounds. Let's say, we did this where you keep the same team. I know this isn't the case, but if we were doing so, to me, it'd be a safe pick because I think he's going to be in this playoffs for a little bit of a run. Yeah. And then finally, the third of my 3 defenders, Andrew Booth, Charleston Battery, 5.5. Just had a pretty consistent season. Not too much more to say about that.
There we go. So that was, remind me those 3 names again?
Yes. Luis Rodriguez, Seth Kasipli, and Andrew Booth.
Okay, time to go to the forwards. And this is where the money is getting spent. In this case, I actually picked the 2 most expensive forwards in this, and I've got a third one lying down there. Okay. So I'm going to start with this one. This guy is the highest rated player in the game. One of 2 players to be worth 15 grand, which is the max price. And I went with Tani Oluwaseyi from San Antonio FC.
It's a good pick.
Phenomenal player. Always got a few goals in him. You know the fact that he's been battling for a kind of in the contention for the Golden Boot, right? For the spell that he was doing so, right, coming in late to then be able to do that. Huge. I've also gone for a Phoenix Rising player who's coming in at 14.5 grand.
Shocker.
Danny Trejo.
Yeah.
Come on. Do we need to talk about Danny Trejo?
No, we don't. Enough said.
Look, goals change games.
Yeah, they do.
And fantasy teams.
Whoa, that's a Maxism right there.
That's actually a Rickism.
Wow.
He said it before you.
Oh, I mean, I know, but I've said it more recently.
It's a Rick Chance.
Typical Max trying to take credit.
That's typical Max.
Pipe down, producer Jacob.
Then, my final pick. I was surprised he was listed as a forward here, but again, I'm going off what the league says. And at 7.5, maybe the production hasn't been there in the end, but the chance creation is always high enough that I think you can't overlook him. It's another Phoenix Rising player, and it is at 7.5, Panos Armanakis. He creates so many chances that I think that at 7.5 grand, you are not going to get a better player in terms of the opportunity to create assists that you get from Panos. So those 3 players, again, that I picked up there, Oluwaseyi, Trejo, and Armanakis. So, yeah.
Okay, that's pretty good. I like the value pick as well for your picks with Panos. I mean, right, your 2 Rising selections both come in the attack.
Yeah.
Very fair, very fair.
So when Rising gets no goals on Sunday, I'm in a rough place, guys.
You really are. Yeah, well, that's okay. Because I also picked the tied for second highest rated forward and the highest rated Rising player, Danny Trejo, as well at 14.5. And then really, I beefed up this lineup. All of my selections were within the top. I mean, if you're going off tie, they're all technically in the top 5 or whatever, but really it's within the top 10, 15 strikers. The second, I'm going with Sebastian Guinzotti, Indy 11. I mean, right, Indy, I think just the way they play, I really think that they have a very good shot against Charleston, and I kind of like the chaos factor of everything they've been rolling with. And then right under him at 11.5, Nico Brett, Birmingham Legion.
Nico Brett. Mm-hmm. You can do the song, the New Mexico United song.
No, I will not.
No, you won't.
No, I will not. Absolutely not.
Okay. Nico Brett coming in at 11.5.
Oh, yeah.
11.5 grand. So, is that the whole team?
That's the whole team.
All right, chat, who do you think has the best lineup? Give us a shout. Let us know what you think.
So
Me or Max, we'll judge them at the end of the week. But of course, again, go check us out on Twitter. Check the PHNX __Rising Twitter out. All the details are there if you want to hop in and make your own team and enter it and see how that goes.
Absolutely. So how many did you end up having from the West and how many from the East?
My balance was really well balanced. It was 5 East, 6 West.
Okay, mine was 7 West, 4 East.
Okay, but see, I got mine as balanced as I could go. That front 3 is nasty. Thank you, Reese. I love it. But I tell you what, this challenge, right? If you think you know USL, you think you know USL Championship, this will test you. And I tell you why. Because you go into it thinking, I know people from around the league. And then you realize that everyone you know from around the league is like priced at like 11 or more.
It's like their guy.
And you can't build a team out of just those because you don't have enough money to build that team. And so you have to start digging and you have to start kind of trying to work out who in that team who around the league is affordable. Who can you pick? And you'll get there eventually, but it's
balling on a budget, baby.
It's a challenge.
Balling on
we
a
love
budget.
a good challenge. And hey, rumor has it that we may have a little prize, especially for one of our diehards who does well. And maybe we'll find a prize for other people as well.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see how that goes.
We'll make it happen. Well, something that is a nice prize, and you can be balling on a budget. It's friends at Four Peaks. Friends at Four Peaks. It's definitely a good time. I mean, listen, we ain't no cheap beers around here. You know, you got to pay a little bit of a pretty penny, but it's because you're getting the quality of Four Peaks, right? Whether they're doing their 15 packs, whether you're getting a nice little pint at the pub, their A Street pub, all that stuff. Super good. We have the fridge chock full of them. I see people out there. They were drinking Wows, drinking Kilts, couple Rattle on Reds. I'm seeing with the deep backs game. Let's go. Check out Four Peaks. They have all the great stuff. Check them out at Four Peaks Brew and at Four Peaks Pub on Instagram. Keep up with the latest and greatest going on with
Devin, you're really loving these ads.
I don't know what this man wants. He's gonna ask me for something.
Big ad man fan.
Yeah, check out Four Peaks. All the good stuff there. Must be 21 years or older to enjoy it responsibly. Of course, shout out friends at Valley Tap Room. You can get Four Peaks there and a bunch of other good stuff. But yeah, people at Valley Tap Room, they're nice people.
We love Valley Tap Room.
My man Donald, again, we keep on teasing it, and we just got to wait till the season's over. But we will be doing stuff at Valley Tap Room for a nice little
Beers
end
are
of
free
season.
when Max is buying.
Gosh
Thank
darn
you,
it.
Damon, in the chat.
Gosh darn it. No. Anyway, we will be doing something when the season's over. Hopefully it's not for a while, but hey, check out Valley Tap Room. You don't need to amplify that, producer Jacob. Check out Valley Tap Room, and yeah, we're gonna have some fun once this whole shebang is done.
But it's not done yet.
You're darn right it's not.
Max hasn't bought me a beer.
I've bought
Max,
you.
you
I
owe
have.
beers.
I've bought you a
You
beer.
owe Jacob a beer.
I've bought you a beer.
You owe Jacob a beer.
I have bought you a beer. Jacob, okay. Guys, I'm gonna put a little sneak peek behind the curtain.
And the show.
I'm pretty sure that since producer Jacob became daddy producer Jacob, I don't think you had a beer. Or at least not one that I've known.
just so abjectly false. That's false. I've had quite a few beers.
You have not let me buy you one. You haven't let me buy you one.
I mean, you
Buy
just
him a
haven't
beer.
bought me beer.
I've tried.
Buy him a beer.
You know what? Buy my dinner tonight.
Wait, whoa! I'm Max not buying dinners. That's
Rumor has it Max will be at the game in about 45 minutes time. Kickoff over at 38th and Washington. If you find Max Simpson, remember to tell him, Max, are you buying beers?
You won't do it, but you won't.
Max is buying beers.
That's all I got. I think producer Jacob wanted to get out of here at 6:45.
He did, and we want to get out of here as well because there is a game going on at 38th Street in Washington tonight. The US under-23s will be taking on Japan.
We should stall for the next time. Oh, wait, we actually have something, producer
23s.
Jacob. Do not end yet. I do want to shout out the diehards. I want to shout out the diehards because, hey, we got some cool merch. Check out the screen. It's fun stuff. Again, I've been saying it. Our merch is back in stock. We have the shirt, the Phoenix PHNX Rising shirt. I have mine on the way as well. We'll be here in time for playoffs. Again, reason why I got ruined was because someone who shall remain nameless put a sticker
Someone put
on
a
there.
sticker on your back. You got told that there was a sticker on your back, and you still did nothing. And
No,
so
that
then
person will
when you
compensate
put it
me.
in the wash,
I will be paid
you
handsomely.
ruined it.
Handsomely, just like I am. I will be paid handsomely. But yes, we have our shirt in there. We have our scarf in there. It's perfect, for the night. It's a thin scarf. It's not the super heavy one. It's good for fall, good for winter, good for even when it's hot out. It's all good stuff. Check them out at phnxlocker.com. Of course, we have all bunch of merch, just like the one Owen's not wearing. Psych, it's more like the one I'm wearing. Check out the Die Hard shirt. Everything else we have there. Again, of course, if you go to PHNX Lock, you can become a diehard as well. You get access to our Discord. People were sending memes. People were sending all types of chat. Apparently, they were saying something about a certain team was in a certain something in the Discord. That's all I will say.
We'll leave that to the Discord.
Yes,
if you want to know, you got to
will.
be in there.
You got to be in the Discord. And again, that's where you get some prizes from doing this fun fantasy challenge. But hey, lots going on. We'll keep up with you guys.
And remember,
With everything.
more than anything, when you're ready to say
Don't do that.
cheers,
Don't
don't
do that.
forget. Go on, producer Jacob, you can finish the song. He's not going to do it.
This guy wasn't even, his mic was
He
even on.
only
He
only
just said
sings
no.
songs from The Little Mermaid, apparently. But
Actually,
Max,
no, and Hamilton.
Max is buying beers.
He actually sung
Okay.
Hamilton. It was
Did he?
he serenaded me.
Well,
But
we got to get out there. US are playing Japan. Japan actually battered Mexico 4-1. Did you know on the weekend?
yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. So
I mean,
Japan under 23s.
well, I gotta.
Can they get the win over the US under 23s? We'll see.
Well, I gotta end the show. I gotta end the show. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for checking out the PHNX Rising podcast. You can find us on Twitter, of course, at PHNX__Rising because double the underscore.
Double the beers that Max owes you.
Goodness. You can follow me on Twitter, Max David Simpson. You can follow Owen on Twitter, OJEvans18. You can follow Reese on Twitter, Reese11_.
And remember, of course,
He used to have 2 underscores. Now it's just 1. I'm not going to go on the
Yeah,
rant.
I'll tell you that one.
You can follow producer. Oh gosh, I always get confused with it. It's not producer.
My at doesn't matter. Just end the show.
Wow, this guy sucks.
Jacob doesn't want any followers. He doesn't want you.
He doesn't want it.
But
Go follow-
remember,
yeah.
hey, we're here.
Jacob
We're having fun all
Franklin.
week.
We'll be back on Thursday at
We'll be
6.
back because remember, what does it say down here?
We want the cup. We want
There we
the
go.
cup. We want the cup. Ole, ole, ole. Let's go!
Playoffs time. Yeah.
We all silly like the mayor.